So today we are headed to a dance workshop at UVM. We are going to be learning about a style of dance called Symbology of Orixas. O-R-I-X-A-S. If you've never heard of it before, welcome to the club. I don't know a thing about it, and that's part of the intrigue, part of the appeal for me, to be able to take a workshop of a dance style that I literally know nothing about. The details mentioned on the poster were that it had live African drumming. That was the one detail that really jumped out to me. If you were setting up a mousetrap, you would put cheese in it as a bait, you know, the whole classical Tom and Jerry style mousetrap. Well, if you were setting up a mousetrap for Calvin, for Dancing Vagabond, you would put, certainly not an entire dance workshop into it, but maybe a flyer for a dance workshop with live African drumming, and just like that. Hopefully none of you are planning to entrap me in the future. So I am also going to be wrapping my wrist today due to an injury. I know a lot of the time when I'm wearing a glove or something covering my hand, there is the off chance that I'm just going to be doing an incredible spin, but this time it is because I injured my wrist. I was trying to impress somebody. Shocking, I know. Injuries suck, that's really all there is to it. I've long since embraced the cyborg mentality, so I'm comfortable wearing wraps. I feel in my body when it's time for me to take extra care, to look out for anything that feels a little bit less than it should, a little bit under the weather. This injury has been healing. I'm about, I'd say, like 2 weeks out from when it was at its worst. And part of the point of wearing this is just to remind me that I really shouldn't be putting it on the ground. All right, we are gonna get moving. So I changed into a different shirt because it is remarkably warm out today. All right, here we are at Cohen Hall. For those of you who have seen my other videos, you might remember Cohen Hall is the place where I've been rehearsing with Paula Higa's dance company for the Migrant Body project. It's, basically a large open space for performance, for dance, with really nice polished wood floors. We are going to get in there in a second or two. I'm going to see about whether it would be all right for me to film. It is an event that's open to the public, more or less. I did have to pre-register, but that's only because there's only so much space, and they just want to make sure that they don't leave it as kind of like an open invitation and have people show up that don't have room, There's only so much room in there for people to dance. All right, looks like we're still getting set up, but I have been cleared to film.
So this event was possible because of the Brazilian Visiting Art Fund that UVM created. So it's a donation-based, funds. So if you know the patrons of Brazil, not the arts, please, tell these people to support, because this is the only way that we can bring artists like Rosangela and Luciano to UVM and offer this free masterclass to the community and students. they had Rosangela all week, but today it's a special class. But anyway, so I'm not going to say a lot, all right? So I give you Rosangela Sylvestre and Luciano Xavier.
I'm inviting you to raise your arms up and feel this growing. Communicate with your cosmos presence, the cosmology, the cosmos presence in you. Invite you to bend your knees, rest your pelvis, and bring the hands to the ground. Your arms is the wings of elements there. Element there. Boom. Then inhale it. Exhale. Boom. There you go.
Okay, so I just got done with the workshop. Wow. Yeah, there was a lot going on there. I talked to Paula when I first got to Cohen Hall and offered to film if she didn't have anybody filming, and she didn't. So you probably noticed from the footage, but for a lot of it, I was behind the camera. Rosangela, the woman teaching the workshop, she moved around the space a good bit, which is part of the style. You know, a lot of it was about spatial movement. There were a full 30 at least people signed up, and in the space, a lot of movement. So a static shot where I just sort of set the camera up and left it wasn't really going to cut it. So aside from the very beginning and a couple times when I was dancing off camera, you know, kind of like behind the camera in moments when I could take my hands off of it, I didn't get to do a lot of dancing, unfortunately. That's totally fine. That's not something that bothers me all that much when I'm at a workshop like that for a style of dance that is literally so rare that my basic searches for it on Google and YouTube turned up, I think, like 2 or 3 videos that were all under 5 minutes long and gave just kind of like general and vague descriptions of what the style of dance was actually about. So being able to be there and actually document what an Orixas, I think that's actually how it's pronounced, Orixas workshop, Symbology of Orixas workshop is about, you know, what it actually entails, felt like the more valuable option. And to be honest, being a cameraman when you have a YouTube channel is never truly a thankless job. I had fun. I had a lot of fun, and I got a lot of good footage. I'm going to send all of it to Paula and Rosangela, and if they're all right with it, I might even post the full workshop as an unlisted video and possibly add a link in the description to it for those who do want to delve into it. It was, you know, a 2-hour workshop, so it will be a relatively long video, but we'll see. We'll see. So one thing that kind of stuck in my head when Rosangela was describing the nature of the symbology and how a lot of it reflects the earth, the wind, water, fire, the elements. I think of Avatar whenever those particular elements come up, but she was talking about them more in terms of history and ancestors, and how her style of dance, her style of the symbology really harkens back to that. It made me think a little bit about how we view dance in terms of its value as not just an art form, but as a language of sorts of its own. You know, we have entire studies devoted to trying to revive dead languages, trying to preserve languages that are spoken by only a few people. There are a lot of languages like that that are dying out in the modern world that anthropologists will go through great efforts to try to document, and in some cases try to revive if there are only a few speakers, just so that they can understand the nature of the language, what it describes, what's special about it. We don't really do that for dance, you know? We do that for other stuff. We do that for, to a certain extent, we do that for even stuff like lost movies, lost TV shows from the early 20th century. You know, we will work to try to preserve, to try to turn up copies of this lost art. I don't really hear a lot about that happening in dance, and I think that's, number one, really sad, because I think dance has an incredible amount of value that often goes overlooked. But number two, it kind of opens up a niche for people a little bit like me, you know, people who actually want to try to document what's going on in the dance world. Not just the projects that I'm involved with, but workshops like this of rare dance styles that are never, is probably never going to be another Symbology of Orixas workshop here in Vermont for a good while. You know, maybe years, maybe decades, maybe ever. Who knows? But I felt like I accomplished something worthwhile today. But with that said, listening to live African drumming while watching a lot of people, dozens of people, literally dozens of people, having fun, incredible amounts of fun doing a new dance style, and feeling obligated to man the camera, which I did dutifully, and I did enjoy, as I mentioned before. It still was, in some ways, a form of torture that's very specific to who I am as a person, you know? I wanted to dance. I didn't really get a chance to dance. I was hoping at the end I could convince one of the drummers to drum for a little bit and do some breaking maybe, but I think one of the UVM dance companies was moving in at the very end, so that space was immediately going to be occupied again. And the workshop, I think, even ran a little bit late, so we were all hustling to get out at the end. Point being, I am really in the mood to dance, and that's something that I actually can do tonight, as long as I'm careful, as long as I mind my injured wrist. So we are going to head to Snap Fitness. It's late enough that the group fitness room will probably be wide open and free. I'm going to see if I can find some African drum music, or at least heavy drum breakbeat inspired music, and I am going to throw down a little bit. And here we are. So one of the moves that I know that I can still practice without worrying about the wrist is windmills. So I think I am going to practice them for the next little bit. Next, corner hoppers, or windmills with no arms, shoulder to shoulder. And last but not least, baby mills, or munch mills. I am going to stretch and wind down. That was a really good session. Relatively quick session, but good, productive. My wrist still feels really good, even though I was putting it down, putting weight on it. Eventually you do get to that stage where you have to start testing the limits of a healing injury again, letting the muscles start to remember why they're there, what they're good for. But yeah, I think that's going to be about it for this video. Just to update you guys on the other stuff that you've probably seen in my previous videos if you're returning. I am still working on the migrant body project. A couple of the other dancers in my company are out of town currently, so it's going to be a really small rehearsal this weekend that I probably won't film. I think another small one the weekend after that, but basically every Sunday after that is going to be a pretty intense rehearsal because we are performing the first weekend of May, which, if you can do math, given that it is late March right now, does not leave us with more than, a little over a month to prepare everything, get everything clean, really turn it into a polished performance that is going to impress the crowd and be worth doing at an expensive venue. But I will be filming more, giving you guys a behind the scenes look at how we are wrapping everything up, bringing everything together, and then hopefully I will also be filming at least one of the performances and giving you a behind the scenes look into what an actual performance is like from within, and posting that on my channel too. And then of course this summer I will be going on numerous adventures, some of them in the van, some of them probably more locally, but stay tuned for that. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one.